Ideally, what do the first 75 minutes of your day look like?
Oh, wow. Is this on? Okay. We're both new moms, so our days start very, very early. But in terms of work, we always check in with each other relatively early, and we kind of set out our task list and our intention for the day. And a lot of it involves last minute running around, whether it's someone needs peanuts at one of the locations, or we forgot rice vermicelli here, or there's no backup cilantro dressing. So there's a lot of just surprises every day that come into play. And usually by lunchtime, we've got our heads screwed on right, and we're ready for service.
Great. As entrepreneurs, we all have tons of habits, good and bad. So as an entrepreneur, Rebecca, what would you say is your biggest strength as an entrepreneur?
I have to apologize. I'm losing my voice a little bit. My biggest strength.
Let's start with strength. Yeah.
Well, strength, I would say, is sort of thinking about things in largely as a concept. I'm thinking big picture and not worrying about the small stuff and not sweating the small stuff, and keeping a sort of a clear vision as to the end point, and try to fulfill every day that supports that goal, and keeping the big picture in mind.
And on the other side, as entrepreneurs, again, we all have, what would you say is your biggest weakness?
Biggest weakness, as I just mentioned, that I'd like to keep the big picture always at hand, but I do have a weakness for micromanaging. When I do get to one of the locations, I find myself obsessing over detail, from everything from the staff to the product, and it's a problem that I have in terms of letting things go and being able to delegate. I like to sort of control everything myself.
Never easy to do as a business grows,
Yeah.
of course. And a habit, what would you say, Mandy, is a habit that you wish you had? That you look at other entrepreneurs and such and you say, I really wish I was more like that, and that would help me sort of...
I think a daily or even sometimes a minute by minute recording of what we're doing. I mean, the growth of our business over the last almost 11 years now, there's been so many procedures and so many things in place that we both know, like we know each other's brains inside out, but there's so much that I wish was more recorded and more methodical, especially in the food industry. There's so many variables. So that's something that, I feel like I have a clone, so that's a backup, but if, if
it's hard to delegate in that way. We don't have things that are in sort of have been recorded, which is I think what you're trying to say, that we're sort of trying to systemize everything because there's so many things to systemize.
And so much of it lives sort of in your brains.
Yes.
And now as you guys are sort of growing with 2 locations and stuff, trying to figure out how to sort of make that work.
Exactly, yeah. And there's opportunities to open up Mandy's elsewhere, internationally and whatnot. So as these opportunities keep presenting themselves and as we want to grow our business, that's something that we need to get more in check.
Okay. Because this always comes up when we talk to to different entrepreneurs at different levels. You have people who've sold their business or serial entrepreneurs, but what was holding you guys back from being entrepreneurs?
I don't think anything was holding us back. We had an interesting start to our business where we were sharing a space with Rebecca's husband and his clothing store, and we still have that on Laurier. It's actually our 3rd location. Where we still share the space, so it's a half restaurant, half clothing boutique. And I think that when we started out, that was it was a very safe way to grow our business because we were sharing a space. We were kind of and literally behind a curtain in a store with zero marketing or advertising. And as that business grew, we were able to branch out more. But I think what was holding us back from really exploding on the scene was sort of hiding in there a little bit and not being a storefront. And 2 years ago we did open storefront, and that really, we couldn't believe it. In a day there were lineups out the door, so it was a testament to it working.
Great. Do you feel like there was ever sort of like a day where you just knew that you wanted to be an entrepreneur? Was there one day say, yes, we've made this right decision, or to this day still an ongoing battle?
Not at all. It was born out of a few conversations and confluence of timing and opportunity and nutritional things and salad bars popping up in New York City where Rebecca was at the time.
I was doing an art program in New York City and there was salad bars everywhere. And when I came back to Montreal, there was nowhere where you can go and create your own salad. And at the time I was dating my now husband. He had a clothing store in Westmount called Mimi and Coco. There was a little mini space in the back of his shop. And I came back from New York, and he wanted to do paninis and espressos and more Italian-inspired little corner in the back of his shop. He had this vision of a concept, clothing and food together. And I convinced him, I said, no, look, there's this huge trend going on in New York. This was now 12 years ago with this create your own salad concept. I said, I don't know anything about food, but Mandy does. She was teaching at the time. I said, let me make a menu with her. Let us just set up shop. We built this tiny little counter in the back of the store, and we spent a few $1,000s on a little bit of renos in the back. It was a cupboard, and we put a counter, and we waited there for days. We had no sign outside, and we just hoped word of mouth through our friends and family that people would come in and we could make them salads. Mandy made an incredible menu. And slowly, word of mouth happened. We would stand there for days, and we'd be excited sometimes when 5 people would come in for a salad. And we actually closed. We closed after the first 6 months, I think, because nobody was really knew about it. And Mandy decided, let's give it a go again. I think after 8 months or something, she reopened it on her own. And that time around, word got out faster. Word of mouth spread a lot faster and more viral. And then we started getting lineups at lunch, and we realized that there was this demand for this type of food. It was what we wanted to eat every day, and there was nothing like it in Montreal.
Which is, it's interesting because when you talk about entrepreneurs also, we always talk about, instead of going a mile wide, really going a mile deep. And at Peter's story, same thing. I'm not trying to sell to 95%. I hope 95% of you don't like my beer, because I'm really going after that 5% that will love it and really have that key audience. And you find a key audience, it wasn't necessarily to start another McDonald's. It was to do something that was very unique and sort of really go after it.
Well, everyone said at the beginning, why don't you just make sandwiches? Like, you'll get more people in here. And we had a clear vision as to what we wanted. We're very branded in terms of its package that we haven't changed since 12 years ago. And we knew exactly, we had a vision as to what the brand and product was. And we've carried through, and as long as we stayed true to the dream and the vision, I feel like people have slowly followed suit, and we believed in it, and we believe that other people would like what we like.
Yeah, and I think, this idea of stick-to-itness as entrepreneurs, we always talk about that too, just saying, being anchored down and really believing in it and going for it, because there's going to be a lot of dark days, there's going to be a lot of days where it doesn't feel right. And, that stubbornness, I always hear this story about, I guess you guys all know Walgreens. So Walgreens is probably one of the largest pharmacies in the US. And this is in the 70s, and the CEO said and they were, believe it or not, before that, they were like this mom and pop restaurant, sold milkshakes and that kind of thing, and that's all they were. They were a restaurant. They had nothing to do with the pharmacy business. And the CEO said, in 5 years, we are going to be out of this business and we're going to be a pharmacy. And nobody believed him because they'd been very successful doing it. And over a course of time, 6 months later, he said, in 4.5 years, we're going to be out of this. And and Peter started going out there and saying, in 6 months, this is what I'm going to be doing, and I'm not going to be doing this anymore. Even saying it is going out and doing it makes a big difference, because what we find is there's never a right moment to sort of start a business. You're always going to have this self-doubt, and you can really sort of go there. It's never easy. So it may have been that day you guys closed, but can you guys take us back and spend a few minutes on telling us what your worst day as an entrepreneur looked like? Like, take us to that story and say, just explain to us what that was like.
Do you want to talk
Either
about
one
it?
of you.
We had a bad experience as young entrepreneurs. We started in our early 20s. We went into a partnership that wasn't a great idea with somebody that we didn't trust, and who betrayed our trust and actually stole some of the recipes and went behind our backs and tried to create it for themselves. And we didn't have contracts in place. So I would always say, have very, very clear things written and signed. Have things signed in a partnership, no matter how much you like them or how well you think you know them. And we really got burned, and we had to actually move out of a location almost overnight because we were taken advantage of. So that was probably. We opened up in another clothing store. We were asked to it was another company that had known that we had brought in a lot of business and this sort of co-branding concept
Right.
that we had started for my husband, and another clothing store wanted us to do the same for them. And we went in blindly, and it was a bad decision. So we found out they were trying to just steal the recipes and do it themselves. So that's, we got an email that wasn't supposed to be for me, it was supposed to be for the assistant, that basically outlined how they were going to steal the recipes and do it themselves. So that was the worst moment. Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah.
And how, like, these moments, back to Peter's point, if it doesn't kill you, it probably is going to make you stronger and grow from that.
We sign everything. We have everything very, very clearly on paper before we do anything now.
Okay, and it may have been the same one. Aha moment. What would you say is the aha moment you guys had in running your business that really sort of said, oh, that it just clicked and you figured something out?
When we opened up our first standalone Mandy's on Sherbrooke Street in 2013, within a day or two there were lineups out the door. Granted, it's a 500 square foot place, so it doesn't take much to give us a lineup. But I mean, really, and it wasn't just women anymore. There's this like think outside the box thing about salad, or a lot of people think, oh, salad, it's for dieters, it's for women, and it's so not what we're about. And I hope and I like to believe that we're part of rethinking that idea, where we're actually just using natural ingredients and coming up with interesting, fun, internationally inspired menu items, and everyone's eating it. It's not just people trying to lose weight or stick to a certain regime. It's there's kids coming in and we make kid-sized salads. There's construction workers coming in. I mean, we have something called a man salad. There's 3 different types of animal in there, and I mean, you won't be hungry for hours. It's we really it's across the board. I think we're feeding everybody really yummy, nutritious, healthy food that's quite honestly a pain in the butt to make at home. You don't want to go home and wash, heads of lettuce and strawberries and 12 other ingredients that are in every single salad. So we knew that, when people were lining up at the door, this is what people want to eat, and we really believe in it. We go to sleep at night thinking, wow, we want to eat this way, other people want to eat this way. It's working. We're giving people what they want, and we feel good about it. That we're not giving like onion rings, which I love too, but it's something we feel good about.
Great. Obviously, you guys have this not unique, but this dynamic of being family and partners in this entrepreneurial endeavor. So, how have you found that helpful, not helpful, or what are some of the dynamics that come along with that?
We're very blessed. We've heard all kinds of family business disasters, and so far it's been one of my proudest, best accomplishment, and something that is a bright spot in my day working with my sister. And we're very different people, but when it comes to the business, I think that our 2 different characters are a really great marriage. I don't know if you want us to go into detail of how that works.
Well, I mean, if you have an example of how you guys have sort of complement each other, or how you guys even deal with conflict, because you have to take it home and you work and you're together a lot. So how do you find that separation between sort of the family dinners and an issue that may have happened at work, or how do you complement each other?
I find that we actually have a very clear, separate relationship when it comes to personal. I mean, we're both new moms. Mandy's a second-time mom, but it's my first experience having a baby. There's a lot of commonality outside of the workplace, and we really try to separate that. I think on the weekends we specifically don't talk about work to maintain that friendship, and we come Monday morning, we're on the phone with each other at 7 or 8 a.m. and it starts. So we really like to maintain this friendship. I mean, Mandy's my best friend for everything in my life. So it's important that I have that separate relationship with her. And it's also, we sort of fell into our natural roles. I think that there's complete respect and understanding of what we each do separately. And she does all of the food part of it. I know nothing about it. There's complete respect and admiration for what she does. And I think that all of the branding and design and creativity behind the product that I love to do, she's so happy to support me with. And there's no stepping on each other's feet. There's never a competitive element, which I'm so grateful for. And I don't know, it just works. It always has worked.
Great. Do you guys feel like just because of your personalities and because of what your natural skills are, that you just naturally fell into roles, that it was quite clear from the beginning what each of you would sort of take on and what roles you'd play?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, we each had our natural talents, and that really came to play when we started designing the place. It just kind of like, okay, well, I want to do this food-wise, and she's like, well, I want these colors and these chairs and this mirror there, and it just was like, it was almost, we didn't have to talk about it or we didn't have to delegate it. We just stepped up and stepped into our natural roles.
Okay, can you just take us through, obviously you start with sharing a space, your own space, to multiple locations now. How have you been able to manage that growth and sort of take that big leap? Because it's not like you're incrementally growing by 5%. You're really you're potentially doubling your business in one decision. How did you know when was the right time to sort of take that step?
As I mentioned before, the opening in 2013 was 100,000% convinced us that people want this. So we started looking at locations that would be, if anyone knows that area, it's Sherbrooke West. It's sort of just past the Victoria Village. It's a lovely neighborhood, but it's not, not everybody goes there. It's more residential, and there's a few office buildings and schools around there. So we started looking at more exposure, especially on the French side of things. We have a huge English following, but we really wanted to make our mark in the French side of the city. And so we started looking downtown Old Montreal, and we found this place on Crescent. And we've been open a week on Crescent. It's over 2,000 square feet. We may look like we're somewhat rested, I don't know, but we're pulling really long hours, and we laugh about it because sometimes, your dreams coming true aren't always what you think it's going to feel like or look like.
We hired over 50 people for one location. I mean, we've never run that kind of operation ever before. Just the space itself and managing that many people, I think, is the biggest change for us, and just being able to manage it properly and
the biggest challenge. It's like your baby, and you're handing off your baby to these 50 people that you hope are going to do the job, and you hope you've trained them well enough. But the second, we're here now and people are at work, and
we just left. Andy's like, I feel like we just left our
the kids at the daycare, and we hope the daycare operator's going to know what to do. So it's a little bit nerve-wracking, but then there has to be that trust and that letting go that you have done the best you can, and you can't be there all the time.
I think the question you were asking, the reason in Westmount we turn away 15 to 20% almost of customers at lunchtime because we don't have space to make their salad. So for that, it was just that's not a great position to be in as a business, that you can't fulfill the demand. And I think that was a big reason why we wanted to open up a bigger space too, and have a big enough kitchen to supply people's needs.
Do you feel like you guys now need to learn new skill sets? So, certainly you have the expertise on the marketing side, the actual product. Now that you have to sort of manage 15, 20 people, is that involving, have you figured out who's going to help? Which one of you is sort of taking the lead on that, or are you bringing in other people, more senior people to sort of help with that? Or so brand new, you're working through it all?
Yeah, it's a big learning curve right now, and there's growing pains, and we have hired an actual overall manager with tons of experience in restaurant management, and that's been helping us a lot. But there's still a lot that we're figuring out ourselves, and some of the best advice we ever learned and that we believe is the best way to learn is just doing it. You just have to do it. You can't learn it. You can't learn this in school. You can't read a book and then know it. You just have to kind of painfully grow into it.
And we hear that all the time. You just have to go and do it and then figure it out, right? And then we'll all make mistakes, and from those mistakes we'll learn. So that's a very common thing. So any last, before some questions, any parting advice you have for other young entrepreneurs or more seasoned entrepreneurs that you should like to share?
I think for me, just stick with whatever your idea is. Don't divert based on people's needs or people's comments or their suggestions. I think if you have a clear vision and you truly believe in it, stick to that vision and carry it through. Don't make changes to it. Don't adjust your concept or your brand or your vision for other people's needs. If you truly believe in it, just do what you believe in and stick to it. Don't change it as you go to adjust to other people's comments or suggestions. Just stick to what you believe.
That's stubbornness that all entrepreneurs must have, that most people won't understand.
You said you hired 50 employees, and that looks like a very big, task. What help did you have doing that?
Well, originally the most important thing for us was to hire a general manager. We'd never had somebody with that kind of experience or that know-how in terms of running a large operation. So we wanted someone that was experienced, that was a little bit older and mature. So we had him help us do a lot of the interviewing. We also feel like it's very important to meet everybody that comes through those doors. And yes, that maybe we're not always going to be there because we do have 3 locations, but it was extremely important for us to meet everybody that came in to work for us. We were part of the whole interviewing process. And we almost wanted to overhire to make sure that when we opened that we weren't understaffed and that the service was going to be at its 100% best that it could be. We focused really on orientation days, which were sort of like Mandy's culture orientation. So we had 3 days once all the staff was on board, sort of business building and team building and trust exercises, and we really went to depths to sort of research different companies that we were inspired by. I worked for Starwood Hotels at one point. I remember this was 15 years ago, that there was a lot of team building exercises before they opened the W Hotel in Old Montreal, and that stuck with me very much because it was it gave me a sense of my team and a sort of inspired feeling for the company that I was working for. So we really wanted to infuse all the new employees with a really bright, excited energy that we wanted to carry through to the customer eventually.